What's up, everybody? Here we are back again in the team room. It's just a twosie. That's what we were calling it before we started recording. It's just the two of us, like the Will Smith song, or maybe the Michael Myers song where he's singing just the two of us with Mini Me and they're running around the prison. I think that's enough two of us references for the start. You know what it is.
Am I the mini me in this scenario?
You don't have to be. I suppose. I don't know why you would immediately go to the sidekick in your own mental adventure there, but like, I don't know. I feel like we could both be mini me. I don't know if that's equal or not.
Yeah, well, I don't know. That's getting deep. If we're both mini me's, then like, who's Austin Powers?
Well, yeah, and who's the evil genius at that point? Is it still mini-me, or is one of us going to have to take on more of like the cerebral planet? You can't have two chaotic people, right?
I don't know. This is why we have Brian, you know?
Why we have somebody to tell us like you guys are idiots. But I don't know, the last one worked out, so we're going to knock another one out. It's going to be a different focus this time. Trent isn't going to be able to just listen to me babble on, so I'm going to be asking Trent a bunch of stuff. As always, we just want to say thanks for coming over here to the YouTube. Like we said earlier, we're going to try to get a lot more exclusive content out here on the YouTube and give you guys just opportunities to know us and talk to us and ask your questions. And I'm sure there's going to be stuff that I find out about Trent. We had a great conversation last time, so we're just going to kind of do that again. So thanks for following us. Go over to onesready.com and check that out. It's got all the podcasts. It's got our partners links. It's got everything you need on there. Some sweet merch. As you see in the background here, I got my sweet flag. I finally have my travel stuff up. That flag's bomb proof too, baby. You know where that flag's going? Nowhere. That thing is not
nowhere.
That thing is not falling down for 1 second.
It's got
this
like
time.
800 nails into it. You're like finding the studs.
So many. I just ruined this wall to put this up essentially so that I don't get in trouble anymore and get roasted on the internet for my poor flag hanging abilities.
Never again.
Never again. There's so many things I will never do ever again. Well, man, let's jump into it, dude. Like hit me off from like young Trenton. I like how our TACPO guys kept calling you young Trenton. He's like, well, Trenton. I'm like, God dang, he's using your full legal.
Dude, when you don't even mean to insult someone, you're just asking questions because it's the questions that we get as One's Ready. It's like, bro, like I know, but I'm sorry. I'm not trying to insult you. And then
this is me trying to ask this question on behalf of the viewers, and you got tuned up for it, man. That was awesome. Well,
note to self: don't piss off TACPOs. They don't let it go.
They're not playing around. They're very angry. It's like in Elf, where he's like, "Ooh, you're an angry guy," and he talks like that's how I view TACP. It's like there's like one happy TACP, and it's kinetic perspective. And even then, he gets still pretty angry.
See, I didn't even think he was a TACP because he's so positive.
Because he's positive all the time, right? Exactly. That's a good look at the angriness of the TACP crew. They're the angriest ones who lose by far. They're even angrier than the controllers. And those guys are usually pretty poo-poo. Except for Peach.
Yeah, the controllers are they're a little like bipolar. They're like either like super chill or like ready to rip your throat out. Or somebody's throat out.
Somebody's throat out. So take it all the way back, man. Where'd you grow up?
Utah. This is scary to put out because I don't like to say this to, like there's things you just don't tell your cones about. They're like, oh, where are you from? You're like, none of your business. Okay.
None of your business. That's where I'm from. I'm from a little town called Stay in Your Lane, partner.
Right. But yeah, I'm from the Salt Lake Valley there, just in the suburbs. Grew up just like everybody else that grew up in that valley in the late 80s and the 90s.
You mean Mormon?
Lots of that. Yeah, I think that's a road. Maybe there's a lot of that going around. I don't think it's a secret.
Yeah, lot to dig into. So you had like the normal growing up Utah. Like that's a beautiful area for people that didn't know. Hill, Utah used to be the home for pretty much all things pararescue. Like they were actually discussing moving everything up to Hill Air Force Base and having all of the PJ training flow out of there. So really connected.
You got the elevation. Like if you want to expand the lungs, it's a good place to be.
Well, it's got everything. So you got water, there's freshwater lakes all over, Utah. There's tons of mountains. There's really, really, tough terrain there. So, and wide open spaces, obviously you need that to train too. So that's just dope. So you grew up there and you got to high school. When did the decision about the Air Force start coming about?
So I was out of high school for 4 years, I believe, before I joined the Air Force. So I took out of high school. I didn't enjoy high school, so I left a year early, and then I bummed around a little bit of college, a little bit of work, and like lot of other things.
Did you leave early on your own accord, or were you like, was it you're fired? Oh well, you can't fire me. I quit sort of scenario.
I graduated. I just okay. Don't give me the option to get out early.
Right.
Because I'm going to do it. So I turned 17 just after I graduated. And then I turned 21 in basic training. So I kind of bebopped around civilian life for a little bit and then realized I needed to do something else with my life, So yeah, that's how that went.
Yeah. That's almost exactly the same thing I did. I mean, I didn't get out of high school early. I didn't do anything my senior year though. Like I think I could have taken some elective nonsense and still been okay, but I did the same thing. Just kind of like bounced around. I was like, I mean, I guess I'll work at this bar, or I guess I'll do this thing, I guess, for a little bit, and basically just hang out with my friends and waste time. What year was that for you?
That I joined?
Well, yeah. So you just turned 21. So
yeah, it was 2003. So okay. I guess the second thing that I don't typically tell cones just came out as well. So now you know how old I am. There you go.
Yeah. This is going to be the best ever. I'm just going to put flyers up all around San Antonio with the link to this YouTube. That's it. I know nothing else. I'm just going to be like, choose your own adventure. Let's see. And then
there's like sorry.
No, go ahead.
There's like generations of cones that are just like, so you're just putting this out now? Like, this is nonsense.
That are just super. You know what? Just put your birthday out there. Just put your actual birthday. Your actual day.
No, that's still dangerous. I still wander amongst team guys from time to time. It's a dangerous game.
It's a dangerous game you play when you try to do that one. So you got into the Air Force. Did you come in to do weather? Was that the thing?
Nope. I came in to be a linguist. So I think I told a little bit of the story, but walked in. I thought about joining the Marine Corps, ended up in the Air Force. I was going to be a linguist. I barely passed the D-Lab. If you're familiar with the D-Lab, I scored like a 102. So I'm not like a language person. I'm not like special.
You're not even an English person.
Yeah, barely. My younger brother scored really high, so he ended up with Farsi, a few years later. But I think they were going to teach me something pretty easy. But attached to my dislike of high school came some extracurricular activities. So anyway, I came into the Air Force. You have to have a TS to go to language school. That didn't work out, so they gave me 5 options, and I chose weather, and that was that.
And then how do you choose weather there? How are you like, oh, this is really interesting to me?
They gave me 5 options. So like they were like, you can be like a dental admin guy, stealth avionics, a couple other things, and then weather. And I was like, looking back, I was like, well, if I would have took the dental admin dude, I could have my doctorate by now or whatever, like work in an office at the dental clinic, pretty good hours.
How good does it sound to be a dentist right now?
Oh my goodness. Awesome.
You'd have your own practice, 9 to 5s. Oh, so good.
I don't know. People's mouths creep me out. So no. But yeah, so like I chose weather because I thought it'd be, fairly challenging. I think they said something about it requiring like a fairly high ASVAB score. So my ego is like, well, of course, that's the one I want. So that's the route I took. And so I ended up in weather. And I guess the rest is, have we ever covered like the whole thing before? I guess not. I've mentioned that I'm not like you guys, but
no, we have not. That's why I'm excited to talk about it. You've never actually laid it out. Like every once in a while, you'll hop in with like a 10-second clip, and we'll be like, "I didn't know that, Trent." So now we're just going to get you on wax for everything. So
yeah,
you get in the weather.
I'm not like you guys.
How was the tech school for weather when you got there? Because I mean, that was 2000. Had to be what, 2004, 2003, 2004.
Yep. So I got there in late summer of 2003 and left in spring of 2004. And it was what 7 months long, and it's just mind numbing. Like there are certain blocks of instruction, and I'm sure medicine's the same way. There's certain blocks of instruction that are like super interesting. So I like learning the physics and dynamics and all the other stuff. But when it comes down to memorizing codes and just the tedious admin type processes that you have to learn, it's not really my jam. So, but we didn't lose that many people in weather school. It has an attrition rate, but it's not anything crazy. But it wasn't the worst thing in the world, and I worked out a lot, and that's, I think, the first time that I figured out that there was more to weather than just regular weather. That's when I got my first SAUT briefing, and I got all jacked up.
You got all excited about it? Were you just immediately sold? You were like, that's it?
Oh, yeah. Like imagine you're going to join the Marines, and you watch like all the war movies, and I'm the typical 20-year-old dude that's like got the itch, ends up in the Air Force because of reasons, and then you're sitting in weather school, and you go through basic training, and you get in worse shape, and then you get to weather school, and like during like combined PT time where you like run around the triangle, and there's this thing called like the Keesler Shuffle, where like 90% of the people out there are like barely more than walking.
They're barely
alive. There's like 4 of us that are out there.
They're just trudging through life.
And there's a few of us out there trying to get like our mile times down, into like low 6s or below. And so you're like trying to run through these crowds of people, and it's a weird environment. But yeah, one day, we're sitting there in school, and we've been there for a while, and they call us downstairs to the conference room. They're like, everybody downstairs, there's a briefing. So we're like, okay, we bebop down there, and there's like I said, there's some guys in gray berets there. And I remember the chief was like, if you guys want to get closer to the action and jump out of planes and get shot at and stuff, like, this is what you need to do. He kind of laid it out for us. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in.
No, that's that's exactly what I want to do.
Yeah. So I can still be in the Air Force and still do that stuff. Like, boom, sold. I'm there. And that was my only goal for a number of years after that.
Okay. Yeah, but it didn't happen right away. Like, you had to go do the weather job first before you could cross train?
Yeah, so you have to become a 5 level. So to become a 5 level in weather, so you graduate the weather schoolhouse near a 3 level, and then it's a 1.5 year upgrade once you get to your unit. So like you go to your specific weather squadron, and you do like 6 weeks of area specific weather training, and then you go to the floor, and then you have to get signed off on all these things, and it takes about 1.5 years. So I showed up there, and I'm like, hey, this is where I'm going. This is what I want to do. Yeah, they were actually really cool about it. I remember the chief out there. I don't remember her name, but she was super awesome. She's like, oh, you want to go do the SAUT thing, right? I'm like, yeah. So even before I'd passed my final CDCs, my test to become a 5 level, before I'd even taken it, she'd put my packet in to go over. So like I had orders to jump school before I found out that I passed my last test to officially be a 5 level.
That's dope. That's really good. That support is really uncommon. I just randomly connected with a dude, my commander, that I was lucky enough. He did the exact same thing with me. As soon as I made it through Indoc, he was like, we're not playing these games anymore, man. He was like, you proved that you can make it through Indoc. You have a whole lifetime to train for now. And he basically gave me a free pass off of work. Shout out to Colonel Dave Carey, his last name, Dave Carey. But shout out Colonel Carey. Thanks. Appreciate you. But he just let me have like 2-hour lunch. He'd be like, listen, if you need to train at lunch, take a 2-hour lunch and go train. He was like, you're going to train in the morning and you're going to do other stuff. That's awesome. You hear a lot of stories about, there were plenty of people that were not supportive of me at all cross training, but luckily I had, him in my corner. Did you have anybody that was just like, you want to go do this for the wrong reasons, or you're not going to make it, or anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, you talk about like those.
Yeah.
When you're like an A1C and tech sergeants are like somebody's, and these guys are wandering around like, those guys are just stupid and they just jump out of planes. They don't know what they're doing.
That happens, isn't it? Like tech sergeants are somebody's. You're just like, you look back and you're just like, I can't believe I listened to you because I thought you had you have a high school degree and 2.5 more years of service than I do. Why are you talking to me?
Yeah, it was weird. But, like you have your mentors, and I think as you go through your career, and even some of the guys that I liked, they were like, man, like, why are you going over there? Like, you're good at this, or good enough. I'm not like special at anything. But I had the itch, and it's one of those things too, that I think that was the hardest part about the pipeline because, or the way it was before is getting to the weather schoolhouse and getting good at something in the Air Force and getting comfortable in that Air Force lifestyle. And you know what I'm talking about. It's real easy.
Oh man. Dude, it would have been to not do it, it would have been so simple to stay in your old job, promote quickly. You felt like you had a grasp on it right away. Our bromance is ever blossoming, buddy, because I'm hearing a lot of the same things from you. I mean, that was exactly the same for me. I was I got to be a hams team leader. So I got to do the coolest part of the mission, really, where you get to actually go to jump school and, you get to support special operation teams. And I have friends that are military free fall jump master, aerospace physiology technicians. Like, you get to do cool stuff. It's not bad at all. It's not a bad gig. Yeah. And I was in the cool part of the job where I got to be that hams dude. And I had tons of people. One guy was literally like, hey, I'm not saying you're going to make it or you're not. I'm just asking you, why would you give this up? You got a sweet gig going right now, man. Like, why would you know that you could do anything you wanted over here, like, but you're still going to try to go back and do this thing. And I was just like, I can't explain it, man. I was like, if I can't tell you what it feels like to not fit in every day, and the place that you do fit in, where you're supposed to be. I was like, you can't ever have a great day at work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what it is. I never thought of it like that, where you just don't fit in and you're just trying to find your place. And, but yeah, I mean, but it was kind of difficult, like it wasn't that hard, but you know what I mean? Like you have that money in your pocket and that's the comfort, and you have friends that are like, yeah, I'm going to do the same thing. And then they end up doing other things. But yeah, so I got my 5 level, I got my orders to jump school. And back in the day, it wasn't difficult really to become a Saudi, like just to get the funny hat. Like it was kind of all backwards. So you get the funny hat first, and then you're supposed to do all the training to be soft. So yeah, you just go to airborne school, and which was kind of a joke, and then SEER school, which was fun, and then you show up and then I went to Fort Bragg, and there you show up and they put you through a few things, and you get your funny hat, and it's weird.
And then you just show up to a team and you're just like, hello, fellow operators. I am also part of this.
Well, I mean, I told people I went through airborne, SEER, 6 weeks of training at Fort Campbell, which kind of encompassed, like 3-level combat control training, I think is what it was based on, but it's not like the same level of intensity. It was just, bros training bros. And then a 1-week shooting school. That's what I had before my first deployment.
Oh, so, good. That sounds like enough. What was that kind of like for you guys? Living, so you're, across Trinity, what the other side of the Air Force looks like. You get, really, it's in the same shred out, but you get the deal. So you worked regular Air Force and went through your tech school, and now suddenly, with a minimum amount of, hey, how you doing? You're thrust into this new culture. How did you navigate those waters? Because it's hard enough being a new guy. Like, being a new guy as a cross trainee was really hard for me. And I've talked about it multiple times. Like, I was pretty good. I thought I knew who I wanted to be as a leader. And a lot of that stuff immediately got turned on its head. Be like, that stuff ain't going to work over here. So what did you struggle with?
I mean, it was just, it's a whole new language. It's a whole new culture, and it's just like anything else. Like we are always telling the guys, when you graduate the pipeline, you start over again. And at the weather squadron, like, it's not that I'm a somebody, but like, I know everybody. I know exactly where I am on the pecking order.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you show up at the new place, and you're the new guy again. They all say acronyms that don't make any sense to you. I was deployed within 3 months of getting there. And guys are like writing other dudes' names down on pieces of paper.
You were deployed 3 months after you got to the squadron?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're going to put a pin in that one. We'll get to it in a second. But anyway, so what were some other, not to interrupt you, but what were some of those other challenges that you had to deal with? Like, I mean, you were just immediately, like, there's few weather dudes at a squadron. Like, there had to be only like 1 or 2 tops other dudes, right?
I went to Fort Bragg, and we covered down on 3rd and 7th group.
Oh, okay. So there's more you dudes up there.
There was a fair number of guys.
Okay.
It was just trying to figure out what I was doing. So I was in town for about 2 weeks before we went out for some training, and that was really helpful, to get out in the field with the guys. And what you lack in knowing all the acronyms and exactly what you're doing, you get to make up for with your youth and your physical abilities and some of that other stuff that you're better at.
Sometimes it's just work ethic. It's just you're just in better shape and you're closer to the pipeline. So okay, I'll carry the heavy stuff then.
Yeah. And you see how everybody interacts and figure out how to navigate those waters. But I mean, it wasn't that bad, like I don't know. I think the weirdest thing that happened was before my first deployment, I met my supervisor one time because he'd just come back from some training. And they're like, hey, this is Trent. He's your new troop. And he looked at me and said, yeah, don't die. Those were the only words he said to me before my first deployment.
That's fantastic. Why? You couldn't come up with anything? That was his one shot.
I think he was taking a nap at his desk or something. And, he like pulls his hat up and like kind of, like, who's this new kid? I weigh all of 150 pounds at the time,
right?
And I'm like, hey, like
it's me,
Senior Airman Segmiller. Yeah. He's like, yeah, don't die. I was like, okay.
Our boy, and, the angriest PJ Doge himself, Shelves, dropped a funny meme today about the recent pararescue graduating class that just cracked me up. It was the Captain America that was like, oh, so you've graduated the pararescue pipeline. Congratulations. Now you can go back to being a Cherry F again, which is, I mean, I don't know how many times we've said it, but the easiest way to demoralize a student is their new team sergeant just being like, oh, all the stuff you did in the pipeline. No, they were holding your hand the entire time. Now you have to do it as a grown up. And if you don't, I'm going to bench you. I can kick you out whenever I want. You don't have to be on this team at all. No. Are you ready to take your closed book and your Medival? And everybody's face just kind of goes, and you're like, yeah. Oh no. I'm in danger.
Yeah. Passing things once. Don't care.
Don't care. Great. You were a student. You had literally like safety measure upon safety measure upon safety measure so that we could get you through there safely. There ain't nobody holding your hand now. Now it's going to be a dude going, I hope you figure that out, because that is not going to go well if you do it like that.
Like, what if I don't figure it out? Then it's like, there's the door.
Then you can either die or quit. One of those two could happen.
Yeah.
So let's hit that deployment up, man. So you're there barely long enough.
Got dark in here.
I know. Yeah, I'm happy to take it to these spaces. Let's go, baby. I swim in these waters. But you get there, you deploy right away. You don't even know your way to and from work without like a GPS at 3 months. You're still figuring out like the fastest way to get to the commissary on your lunch break at that point. And you're talking about going and deploying in a job that you just showed up.
I still didn't know where the commissary was on Bragg. Like, that thing is huge.
Bragg, well, yeah, I was going to say, in all fairness, Bragg is huge. You can get lost in Bragg on like the tank trails and just be like, where am I? Am I on the moon? Is this Mars?
Yeah, and I was lucky because there was like one main road that kind of went from my apartment past my work. And if I stay on that road, it took me to Pope. So like,
oh, perfect.
I knew one road in Fayetteville.
Safety. You had safety. And it was yeah. Tell me you lived on like Military Drive in Fayetteville.
I don't even remember what the name of the road. It wasn't Military. It was the other side. Oh, no, it was south west.
All those roads around there crack me up. It's like, this is Victory Drive. This is Military Drive. This is where you can get a Dodge Charger for 28% APR.
Yeah, All American Drive.
All American Drive.
80 deuce.
So you deploy, and what was that like?
So we were out at Fort Campbell doing our training, and I remember we were sitting in the we're doing some stuff. We were in the ISAFAC out there, 5th group, and the commander was there with us, and he got a phone call. One of our dudes had been shot downrange. Okay, which is he survived. Well, he's gone now, but he'd survived at the time, and so there's like a big brouhaha, And when I first got to Fort Bragg, they were like, "Hey, man, in January you have an AST slot or STTS, and so we're going to train you up, and then we're going to send you there for your top off training, like a combat controller would." Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Before we do anything with you.
I was thinking to myself how you got away without going to AST because I thought you guys were going there too. But all right, so that was good.
Well, that's how it was supposed to go. But then Rick decided to put his leg in front of some dude's head and save his life by getting shot in the calf and losing a giant piece of his leg. So they weren't sure what they were going to do. But we got done with the training. We got back to Bragg. And then, one day the LT gets a phone call and walks out of his office, and he's like, "Hey, who on paper is qualified to deploy?" And ops tempo at that time was crazy for everybody.
Right.
It was 2006.
Oh, yeah. People were getting, dudes at Vegas and DM at that time were doing this weird, like, half deployment thing. Dudes were getting, like, 7 trips out of a 4-year assignment. And they were, like 120 days. Like, people would fill in for other dudes. The ops tempo was just way too high back then.
Yeah. Yep. So, our bro had been shot. They had to cover down on him, and so on paper I was, I guess, technically qualified, and so they sent me out. So I got my orders. Guys were like packing my bags for me. Guys were giving me pieces of paper and saying things that I did not understand. They're like, "Hey, look up Sergeant First Class Smith of the Siege of Soda. When you get there, like he'll hook you up. Like he's there right now." And I'm like, I understood Smith out of those words you just said to me.
None of those acronyms. I don't know what those letters mean in that order. Like, I have never seen them in that order before. And I don't know. That's not a word that I'm aware of. Does it mean something?
Yep. I didn't know.
Well, and we've talked about it a couple of times, but I'm sure that there are stories of, there's one off, a couple dudes. You're not even the only SR guy that has told me a story exactly like this. Like, first deployment, fresh out of school. I knew nothing about nothing. The situation lined up right. And there I was, kind of asked to go do this mission alone and unafraid. We put our guys in that position more frequently than anybody else that I know of. Like, it's your first deployment. You're at Moody Air Force Base, and you hope to work on a PJ team this first deployment and have a team leader like take you under his wing. That's not this one. This one, you're going to go out and you're going to be working, just like their last Silver Star winner for us, Brunetto. He was a student of mine. That dude went out there and absolutely crushed on his first deployment. He did 2 months of like your classic PJ mission. Then he was on the ground for 2 months with one of the teams, and he just found himself in a situation where he excelled. But we do that a lot more than the other soft forces. And, especially for you, like if people aren't putting it together, the young man, Trent and Siegmel, were you even a staff sergeant at this time? You're
Nope.
a senior airman. So senior airman, brand new, a representative for the entire dude that wears that beret. Like, you were going to show up somewhere and you're just going to be like, hi guys, I'm the weather guy.
Well, I mean, kind of, yeah.
But like it all worked out. What are you doing, man? It sounds better for the content if you just say that's exactly what happened. And there I was.
You don't know.
I'll edit it out in post.
But like it was kind of crazy because I didn't deploy with anybody. So like, I just went by myself. I got to the deed. I'm not sure how I got there. I made friends with some dude that was a AC-130 sensor operator. And so I managed to it was just him and I. We kind of hitchhiked our way into country. He was like, hey, they're sending out a C-130 for me to get me to Bagram. Is that where you're going? I'm like, yeah, I think so. He's like, bro, just get your stuff out of, go grab your weapon out of Hawk and let's just go. And I'm like, okay. So I go check my stuff out and I hop on a plane with him. Like, I'm pretty sure I didn't tell anybody. I'm probably still checked into LUD to this day.
they're calling
Senior Airman Segmuller.
They've been calling your name at every single every single flight out of the deed since 2006.
I'm like on a plaque that's like in memory of. They're pretty sure I'm gone.
You're the only person they ever lost in the terminal.
Yeah, but like it was cool. But I had no idea how far Bagram was from the deed. I had no idea where I was, so I froze my butt off on a C-130 all the way there, and then I think I just lucked out. There was like a Green Beret that like kind of knew that I was supposed to be getting there, and he was picking up some other dudes, and he's like, "Hey, you." I was like, yes. He's like, are you going to the Siege of Soda for whatever? And I was like, yeah. He's like, throw your stuff in the truck. Let's go.
You could have just gotten kidnapped by anybody. This whole story has been one different situation away from this is how Trent gets human trafficked.
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea, but like you figure out pretty quick. It's just like go out there on a runway, throw your thumb up, and like figure out where you're going. But yeah, so I got to Bagram, and then a little bit later, I got out to Kandahar. My first night in Kandahar, there was like a little rocket attack. So like literally like the first night I ever laid down in Kandahar, like my head hit the pillow and I hear a rocket go over and explode. And like I hear the rocks come down, and I was just like, man, it's just like everybody said it was going to be. It sounded just like a movie.
It is exactly like Hollywood has led me to believe.
Yeah, which it wasn't, but like it was just like that first initial. It was the only casualty of that was some kid was out there on the boardwalk, and he dove for cover and sprained his ankle. Like that was the only casualty that day.
We took. I was just telling the story. We were the two worst incoming places. So I was in Balad during Ramadan for one period. I was doing a task force rotation, and you know how people dramatize things. Like before I went to Africa the first time, they were like, "Oh, you don't understand Africa hot." I hate when people do that. I'm like, listen, okay, you've been there. I haven't been there. I don't care. Like, why? Fun story. Africa is a whole different level of hot. Like it is unbearable. It is awful. It's like being on a different planet. So of course I'm getting ready to go there, and they're like, oh, Balad, we call that Mortaritaville. Yuck, 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 yuck. We even had t-shirts made. And I'm like, oh my God, if you nerds don't shut up about it can't be that bad. I was totally wrong. I was completely and totally wrong. We, for a period of like 14 days or something, we took incoming like 9 or 10 times a night. And it was the worst. I mean, and it was for like 14 straight days. Like as soon as it got dark out, it was just mortar after rocket after mortar. Like you could hear, they always fired from this one place. I can't remember if it was, I think it was east of where we were, but there were 2 CRAMs in between us and where usually that stuff. So you'd hear the far one go off and you wouldn't get worried about it. You'd be like, whatever. You'd hear the close one go off and you go, oh no. Cause you'd hear the first one go. And if you heard that second one go, you're like, oh no!
Why didn't you get
it? Yeah, what do you guys do? You're a robot that fires like 5,000 rounds a second. Like you're a computer. You need to shoot this thing. But the other Bagram was the same way, and it was. I mean, we took the sensor operator dudes that work the Army UAVs were like 2 tents over. They got hit right into their tent with their incoming. Like incoming was always just the worst. Like you'd hear it clack off. You'd hear a CRAM start going off, and you're just like. Man, is this it? Is this the one? I'm in the bathroom. Like you're in a porta potty. It's Iraq. It's 1,000 degrees in the porta potty, and you hear incoming alarms go off, and you're like, "This is the worst way. This is it."
Yep. I think that's everybody's greatest fear is them finding your body like that. Like,
come on, yeah, right.
At least let me get out of here and make a run for it or something before.
At my military funeral, how'd Aaron die? Oh, he went out on the toilet like a bitch. Great, cool. So,
I don't want that to be. Yeah.
I expect you to tweet that if I do die. That's all I want you to tweet. He went out on the toilet like a bitch. Well, so how did that first deployment go then? You kind of showed up. It was rough getting there, but you got into the space and started going to work.
It wasn't bad. I spent some time in Kandahar just doing like the regular weather stuff. And it was good because the other Sauti guy that was there, he was a guard Sauti guy, former Ranger instructor. And I guess most of the leadership that was there in the jock had him as a Ranger instructor. So he's like instantly credible. So
he could always pull that card too, because he starts putting that tone of voice in and those dudes will snap too right away. You're like, whoa.
Yeah. But he was on his way out the door, and he's like, 245 jacked, doing weird workouts in the gym, and like we're like the same kind of, but like I show up and I'm like this pasty dude. I just barely got my malaria shot. Like my like lat was all swole up because my lymph nodes had a bad reaction.
Oh no.
Anyway, and then he leaves, and then another guy comes in to replace him, and then they push me forward. And this is where I realized, like, because like you're in Kandahar, it's a little bit comfortable and been there for a few weeks. And then I was talking to one of the Green Berets that I was with, and I was like, yeah, my buddy's here, so they're going to push me forward. He's like, where are you going? I'm like, Cobra. I just remember him like,
gross.
Like, nope. Bro. Like, it just changed. He's like, yeah, keep your head down out there, bro. Okay?
Cobra's awful. Like, Cobra is the only place that's worth in Cobra for Afghanistan for me was Dalkey and Shank. For whatever reason, like Fob Shank, if I ever see Fob Shank again, like PTSD through the roof.
You guys got like mortared and rocketed more at Shank, didn't you? Than Bagram.
I had so the deployment that I went to Iraq, I had friends that went over to Shank, and we would work in and out of Shank, but I didn't spend any more than like a week or two at a time there. The week or two at a time there, I would leave and I'd be like, guys, I love you. You're my friends, but I gotta go, dog. How do you guys put up with this every day? I'm telling you, like, and it was even more than than we were getting. I compared it to Balad kind of those first couple of days, but that place was awful. And I can't imagine. I was there when it was relatively slower. Like I was there when, that was 2013 or 14, like Helmand had slowed down. The Sangin wasn't nearly as bad because we weren't going in that much, but even way up north, it was starting to not be as bad, but it was still the worst place. It's still awful.
Yeah. I think, the same year that you were running through there, I was supporting the 160th pros that were working out of there. So,
oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. We're talking to them every day.
That's as close as we've come to meeting in person was a couple one-offs. I know, it's so close. It's going to happen. I'm going to be excited about it. So you get done with those deployments and stuff, and you start really like transitioning through your career, and you start getting through the ranks and stuff. So, you put on staff, you put on tech. Did you ever work down at like the actual squadron down at Herbie?
Yeah. So the squadron was tiny, and we had detachments at all the special forces groups, right? And then I went to go be an instructor. So I did 2 deployments, and then I was a little tired. And they're like, hey, we're going to stand up the new pipeline. And I was like, yeah, I'll go do that. And I decided not to go up to the next assessment because I was going to marry this girl that I knew, who's my wife now.
Oh, yeah.
And she was not about that life.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I would have made it. They probably just would have laughed me off the hill anyway and told me never to come back. Don't talk to me ever again.
Right. But hey, real talk. Does that bother you? You not going to that assessment? Not for the marriage part of it. I'm saying you as a person. Do you think that is a missed opportunity for you?
I don't think so. I think,
man, I do for me. Like, that's why I was asking. I have always.
It's just one of those things.
Yeah, I've always just wanted.
It's an unknown.
Yeah, I've wanted to take that test. I think is probably the best way to do it. Like maybe I would fail because I say the same thing you do, but that's been something for me. Like I don't know. I'd like to see if I could make those events. Like talking to Mr. Free has always been a great thing and one of the best people in the world. So we'll talk about it. And I've told him straight up. I'm like, hey man, I want to come through your assessment. He's like, I'd like to see you too. He's like, I'd like to see you try that too. I'd like to see what happens with that. So I don't know. For me, I always felt like it was a missed opportunity to go there and at least try. Because even the guys that go and try and fail at that assessment come back and they go, I've learned a lot about myself. There were some holes in my game that I want to fix, and they're always better for it. So shout out to those guys over at 724 STG Raz for running an excellent program. But even the people they don't pick up walk away with it and talk positively of it. So I just didn't know if you felt the same way.
Well, it's easy to look back at something you didn't do and fill in a lot of those blanks, right? And I'm not saying I don't do that because I definitely do that. But instead of doing that, I went and helped stand up the first ever SAUT pipeline to help really legitimize our training and our capabilities, which led to everything else that's happened in my career, which I think has been, fairly positive. And, the challenge was unique. So yeah, there's always going to be a part of me that's like, just wanting to know, like, did I have what it takes or not? But it's whatever. So yeah, I knocked out the instructor duty. While my wife went to college and she got all smarter than me and stuff. And then, went back on team and then came out to Lackland.
I hate to break this to you. She was always smarter than you.
Yeah. More educated, so.
Outstanding.
It is what it is.
Well, so you get out to Lackland and then, man, the wheels start falling off. So when did you guys know, like when was the first time that that SAUT was going away and special reconnaissance was going to be a thing? Because I know there's always rumblings and there's always dudes that, even a couple years early, sometimes guys will talk about it or get wind about it. Did you have any inkling that you were going to go from, kind of helping rearrange the pipeline and taking that first step to being in the position where, no kidding, you are the face of special reconnaissance?
Which, by the way, I'm the worst representative for the AFSC. If I had to list out all the guys in the career field,
sure.
Some of these guys that are legitimate dudes. I'm in the bottom quarter of that list of people I would choose to come on a podcast to talk about this. Right. I think it was 2018, and we'd heard rumblings about. I don't want to put too much dirty laundry out there, but some people, we had two daddies. We're trying to please weather, conventional Air Force weather. We're trying to also get after the AFSOC side of the house missions.
Sure.
And so we weren't really making anybody happy. They were not happy. And what came out of that was, but really it was just I got a phone call from my guy one day. He's like, dude, we're reconnaissance dudes now. And you're going to have to start working on this since you're the AETC guy. And it just kind of all accelerated at a ridiculous rate after that. And it's just been problem solving ever since,
And it's just problem solving on a huge level. People don't, we often kind of poo-poo it, or people are it's hard to explain to people what a monumental task that is. Writing a CFETP, even rewriting, you're supposed to do it every 2 years. Writing a new training plan from scratch, which is essentially what you guys had to do. You guys had to strip everything down and look at it and go, is this valuable? Is this not valuable? Does this give me joy? Does forecasting give me joy? No, then we're not going to spend time on it. We're going to do other stuff, and we poo-poo it because you'll say the same thing you just did. Well, it's just problem solving. I can tell you from being in that seat, from being at Kirtland and having to redo it, it is a nightmare. It is everything that operators hate, from administration, queep, to formatting Word documents that won't format correctly. I moved a picture one time and I moved a picture, a siren went off. the entire document didn't save and it closed down. It berated me. I was bullied by Microsoft Word. But that set us back like a week. I screwed this one process. But that stuff
Why does
happens.
Bill Gates hate you?
I don't know, because he's trying to kill humanity. Conspiracy theorist, back me up on this one.
Dang.
I know, right?
I mean, that's on Reddit for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a lot, but I think having gone through the initial experience, which I described as digging a hole with my forehead the first time I tried to stand up a pipeline.
Sure.
It really helped me out, and I understood the basic structure of how AATC works. And so when I came back to AATC and we just stood up the prep course, and I was the curriculum guy for the prep course. And so I'd already just gone through this entire process again.
That whole CDE validation, the entire thing. Like, I can't imagine. It has to be so much easier like that. Not that it's easy, but.
Yeah. And then, they're like, hey, do this. And so I'm not saying I'm the guy that has all the right answers, but I have experience in all the AATC isms. And I'm able to call people out when they say stuff like, you can't do that. And I'm like, that's incorrect.
No, I sure can.
And here's how. And just having that understanding. I'm not saying I haven't learned a lot over the past 2 years, because I have. Obviously I don't know everything, but it's been a bear.
Yeah,
I got more gray hair now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, way more gray hair. I was trying to explain to somebody too about my time at AETC, because we actually went on recruiting tours where we'd go talk to people and say, hey, you guys should come down. It works. It's a good one. Old Chief Rubio and I went on several recruiting tours, and it actually showed benefit, because we didn't want any more non-vols at the schoolhouse. We're like, if you guys don't want to work here, then that's fine. We don't want you to get non-voled to the schoolhouse to come work here, because those people, they just are less productive. Like, maybe sometimes they come around, but for some period, they're like, I didn't even want to come here. Like, if they do that even for a day versus the one day that somebody that, wanted to come there, as long as they couldn't say it, that's one day. Like, that's a lot. And people didn't get that. So we would go on recruiting tours to explain to them the goodness of being an instructor. Like, I'm here in Albuquerque now, but being here in Albuquerque and being part of this community, and the touch and the impact that you have on the student community and the things that you're able to do there, people just didn't know that side of it. So we tried to explain it to those people so that, so we didn't have those instructors. And the things I always used to tell these guys in those recruiting briefs were, listen, guys, you talk about how restrictive AETC is and how you can't get anything done. Nope. As soon as you crack that code, as soon as you figure out what words you need to say, as soon as you get better at them than they are, because then you can always rely on your experience. You can go, okay, we're even now, because I know all of your processes too, but you know nothing about being an operator because you're a curriculum developer. So if I'm on an even playing field with you about curriculum, then that means you can't talk to me at all about the events that I want to do because they're operationally valid. And when you figure out how to make that case, you can do whatever you want within reason and safety.
You have to put effort into understanding it. And I just want to put this out. I don't want to defend AETC too much or whatever, but the way that we develop curriculum is the way that civilians everywhere develop curriculum. The process is the exact same for anybody that develops teaching curriculum anywhere in the United States or the world. It's just a lot to understand, and it's a tedious process. But like you said, once you crack it and then you're the SME on what you do, there are very few restrictions on what you can do. You just have to be able to justify it, just like anything else. Like, you don't get to go on a mission operationally without justifying it and covering down on all your isms, all your ORM and all that other crap. So you got to
your I's have to be dotted, your T's have to be crossed. Like, you have to have your game together.
Yep. So yeah, man, it's been a thing and a learning experience. And then on top of that, we started this One's Ready venture. And
I know.
It's crazy.
I know, it's getting crazier and crazier, man. But that's one of those things too. Like, why did you get in? I mean, I know what that phone call was with Brian. I talk to Brian all the time, and well, not all the time, but we obviously ran in the same circles. We're both working in the pipeline together, and known each other for years. So Brian, it wasn't a surprise that Brian Silva was giving me a call. But when you got that call and we were like, hey, here's this crazy thing that we're going to try to make happen. What was that like for you?
I remember where I was.
You really?
Is that weird? Yeah.
No, that's dope.
I was I was in the parking lot of my daughter's school, going there to pick her up. And he's just like, hey, man, it was like a really short conversation. He was like, you want to do a podcast, We're going to get a controller and another PJ and a TAC P at the time. Just so everybody knows, we tried. We really tried.
We really tried.
And I was like, yeah, why not? Let's do it. Let's go. And I think that was the whole conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I've just been conditioned throughout my career to know just enough about something to make a decision and just be like, yeah, like opportunity, ready, set, go. We need to do something.
Well, we're awesome at assessing like risk, right? Assessing and accepting risk is what we do. We figure out how to do really dangerous things as safely as possible. Doesn't mean we don't get in our own way every once in a while and make things too safe. However, it's one of those things with me too. I'm like, all right, why are we here? We're here to get as many people the right information to make the best possible decision to hopefully get into these career fields and keep us relevant, keep us resilient, keep us ready to do the mission. All those keywords that I'm supposed to say. Proud graduate, senior NCOA. What's up, Flight 14?
Whoa.
Quick shout out.
Also, like an extra senior NCO now, right?
I was never a good senior NCO to start, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what insignia you make me wear. I'm still going to try to be a good staff sergeant because I haven't really figured that one out yet. So I'm just gonna keep going. I don't even want to talk about that extra stuff. It's just one of those things. Like, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter your rank. It doesn't matter, your experience. If you're there for the right reason, you're going to put out for a good job. And for us, I thought it was like the right reason. I thought it was just something that was like, man, what risk am I accepting by not doing it? And you always look at the three things in the military that we look for in mission planning, right? You look for risk to mission. Like, can this mission fail and how? Then you look at risk to force. Is this going to kill one of my dudes and how? Well, there's a third one that people don't explore a whole lot, and that's risk of inaction. What happens if I don't do this? What happens if I don't do it right now? For me, man, the risk to mission, risk to force, like it's not going to hurt me. Like, I'm going to get some memes made about me. People are going to make fun of it. We're going to have haters.
It's a risk to ego.
It is. Yeah. Risk to ego, right? That's not a risk to me though. Maybe I need to see that and grow up. Maybe disaster does need to hand me my ass. And then now we can have cordial conversations or whatever. I don't know, but whatever it is that you need to do, maybe I need to get made fun of. Maybe that's going to be good for me in the end, but that's not a risk, but I looked at risk of inaction. What happens if we don't do this? And all I could think about was like, what happens when we don't recruit enough pararescuemen and a couple more of my guys have to go on an extra deployment? What happens when the SR career field, we can't get enough people into it? What happens when, we don't get this word out there and we're just getting crushed? Like, that doesn't help the career field. That risk to inaction with me, I was like, all right, well, here we go.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's everything. It's, I think we all have this thing where, our experiences and our growth throughout our careers, no matter how we got here, and I try to be as open as possible about how, like, I didn't have to go through the same things you had to go through to get to where we're at.
Not. You didn't even tell people how old you were until this video right here. You're not
cones. I don't tell cones how old I am.
Well, cones, they don't count. They're not actually. We used to have this joke. Everybody, story on pause. This one is just between me and Trent. Nobody else listening. We used to say that cones don't really have feelings. They're not real people. That's false. You guys are all valid. I love all of you. But it is a funny joke for older dudes, and you can feel free to make it when you get older. Put that beret on, and you'd be like, cones don't matter.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think I was going to say something like with feelings involved or something like, we through all our experiences, like we've learned so much and so much about ourselves, and we've grown so much throughout our careers that, like, you have that. Like, my whole life is not being an SR dude or a SAUT guy, but I have a very special place in my heart for all the opportunities that this career path gave me and all the growth it gave me and all the people that I've been able to associate with. So when you looked at the landscape and there was a gap that needed to be filled, whether or not you get an official mission assignment from your commander or not, like, what do? You go fill the gap.
You find work. Yeah, exactly. You see a problem, you fix a problem. We're not in the habit of saying no and not talking about you see a problem, you go fix it.
Yep. So that's how it went for me.
Man. And now here we are, a year later of just full speed, and you've somehow surpassed the PJs in the hair game. I think you're the consensus number one draft pick for best hair on the show.
We need to get some more PJs on here, see what they say. Chris Thomas Chris has some great hair. It's like Lego hair though. Like it never moves. It's so perfect.
Yeah.
Like
I think he could just take it all off as like one piece and then just like put on a different hairstyle. Like today's like, oh, faux hawk.
Yeah. He's like a motivation cyborg. You know, like he was developed in a lab to just be handsome and motivational. That's
and
Chris.
it's totally genuine too, by the way. You're never going to see him break. I've spent enough time around my guy. And when we were in, San Antonio and he was there, if I was in and out, he was always happy. And I'm like, man, this place is a factory of sadness. The Chapman Annex, that place is designed for one thing: crushing egos and making people sad. Like that whole area, like you can't help but go back and be like, because you're just like, people are like,
you can smell it.
Yeah. You're looking at a field and people are like, why are you looking at that field like that? And you're like, this one time, 2 of our guys went to the bathroom when they shouldn't have asked to go to the bathroom, and they did. And then we got smoked for 8 hours in that field. And you're like,
there are souls buried in that field.
There are like 2 people quit that day. Their entire careers changed because this guy didn't raise his hand before he started running to a porta potty, and we just got destroyed for it. Hate to see it, Phil.
Yeah. These are the things that happen, but it's all good. So I don't know what else. I actually had one question for you today before we log off here and jump on. By the way, another podcast, an official podcast with an outline.
An official one, yeah.
Who was your first mentor in pararescue?
Oh, wow. My first mentor? Man, I think the first one, when I was in England, I think it was our team sergeant. Brian and I had the same team sergeant. It was Curtis Andes. He just recently retired. I think Curtis was probably the first person, there's my first line supervisor when I was there, that would really sit me down and take me to task for stuff like J-Mac. He was an enlisted guy. I remember J-Mac absolutely ripping into me in Croatia. I mean, just because he was my first line supervisor. I screwed up and J-Mac was like, hey, do me a favor. Never do that again. Like, I don't know what you're doing right now, but that can't happen. I was just like, holy cow, man. So I think maybe my first mentor, I think I'd have to say CA. Like I got a special place in my heart for that dude. But all those guys at England, Nick and J-Mac and Chief Dwayne Hayes, he's a chief now, but he's the ACC MFM. Like that was another dude. He was like the leaders that I had J-Mac, and then above him, I had a guy that's, a chief now. And then I had a guy above him that was, a decorated 27-year, he retired as an E8, but man, I was extremely lucky out of there. Who was your first mentor? Who was like your number one SAUT dude?
It's like you show up to your first unit and you kind of pick from everybody different things.
Sure.
And I didn't expect it to like kind of come full circle like this, but that dude that told me to not die on my first rotation, he did a lot for me later on. He felt really bad when I came back and he like heard about everything that had happened. Like, cause I don't think he thought that they were going to put me where they put me.
Sure.
So he was, but like, he's that kind of guy, like I get from this other dude, from Josh, I get, don't take anything too seriously, that there are things that are serious and things that are not, and learn how to deal with it with humor. From Scotty, I learned, leadership styles. But from Dave, I learned, like he was hard on me when he had to be, but he would also listen to me if he, like he was the one that I was able to like finally open up to about some of the stuff that happened on the first rotation. Cause like one of the weird things that happens in the Air Force is when you deploy by yourself, like you don't go with a team and come back and have like this shared experience within your team on your team room. Like that's what another thing that makes us different. Like we all kind of know what everybody did, but it's not like you and I were there at the same time, 15 years ago, and we can talk about it. So, and so it's it can be weird to talk about stuff. But yeah, that's, I guess it was Dave, the don't die dude, he's kind of he's a angry little Irishman.
That's fantastic. And that seems like a good place to end it. Cause I think we've come full circle and now we're just at where we're going. What do you, I'll end it with this one. Cause I want you to be able to have kind of like the last say, man. Where do you want to go in 2021? What do you want to do for One's Ready to take us, all of us, this team of ours, into the stratosphere? What do you want to do?
I'm not a big planner. Have we covered this before? I'm not a planner.
Yeah. All right. Give me your one goal. If we can get somewhere, one goal, what is it? And I'll make you plan it out.
I don't know. I want to see, there are One's Ready's goals and they're my specific goals, I want to see, I'll just say for everybody, I want to see PGL, like I want to see the number of students coming in the door that we want to see coming in the door, that are qualified and ready and educated. Like my first goal, like the only goal, that the bedrock of this whole thing that we started was, I want to get people in the door that know what they're doing, that know what they're getting into, and are properly motivated, so that we can replace ourselves with those the correct individuals to get after the mission, because the mission is important. It's not just important to us because of our experiences. It's important to our country for maintaining our status as a country moving forward, that type of thing. So I think that's what I want to see. I want to see that influx of the correct people into the pipeline.
Couldn't have said it better myself, buddy. Me too.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a joy. We should do this more often. We should really just get together. We don't need a script. We can just kind of talk about stuff.
What are we gonna name it? Hey, if you're listening to this and you made it to the end, submit names for the Aaron and Trent podcast, the one-on-one behind the scenes, whatever you want to call it, like the Aaron and Trent show, whatever you want to say.
Aaron and Trent show. Oh no, I've already got it. I'll tell you. Nope, I've already got it. I'm not going to put it out there. I got it. I'll tell you after we get off here, and then we'll see. But for everybody that is listening, put your recommendations in the comments. If you guys guess what I guess, I will personally send you, and I will text Trent so that he has accountability on this one. I'll text him the name, but if you guys can guess first, put whatever guesses in that you want down there. If it's better than mine, we'll take it. But if you guess mine directly, I will send you some merch because it made me giggle right there. So, and I'm a narcissist at heart. So thanks everybody for listening. Check out the podcast on Apple. Leave us a 5-star review. This is going to be more exclusive video content that we're going to put over here on YouTube. We're going to start populating this with shorter videos and just some one-on-ones and stuff like this that we're doing, so you can get to know us a little bit better. And then you can kind of have smaller bite-sized pieces of our normal podcast. So if you just want to learn about little stuff, come over here, hit the YouTube, like, subscribe, share, comment, hit us up over on IG. Trent, love you, bro. The bromance.
You too.
It's strong.
It's happening.
I'm telling
you. I'm not sure we should ever meet. It could go weird real quick.
It's gonna get so weird. Let's do it in Texas, and we'll invite.
We're gonna be like, do we go straight to hugging?
Do we fight? Do we hit each other? we'll get JT. We'll just meet at JT's house. We'll just get really drunk, and then we'll get really weird with the BRCC boys and see what happens.
They're weird enough as it is. So yeah.
I know. Yeah. All right, everybody. Train hard.
Later.